Hi, everyone. I'm Andrew Abdalian. I'm the Native American Scholars Initiative postdoctoral fellow here at the American Philosophical Society this year. I am incredibly honored to be moderating this last panel of the day on archival materials and language vitality. We have three wonderful presenters. The first, all the way to my left and your right, is Carly Tex. She's a Western Mono traditional basket weaver, linguist, language instructor, community organizer, cultural consultant, and advocate. She's the executive director of Advocates for Indigenous California Language Survival, AICLS, a grassroots language organization dedicated to the reclamation of California indigenous languages. She also serves on the Alliance for California Traditional Arts, or ACTA, board of directors. She currently leads a language documentation project funded by the National Endowment for the Humanities in collaboration with her tribe and works with her elders to learn and maintain the Western Mono language. To her right and your left is Julian Lang, a Karuk tribal member of Wiyot and Shasta descent, Indigenous language advocate, leader, and teacher, artist, writer. He's the founder and the director of the Institute of Native Knowledge with the mission of returning Native knowledge to Native people. He is currently the chairman of the Karuk Language Committee and the Advocates for Indigenous California Language Survival. A recognized cultural leader in Northwest California, he has taught the Karuk language since 1980 and has taught over 500 Native youth many Karuk traditional Karuk songs and creation stories. He is currently organizing his extensive personal language and art archive for both digitization and storage at his tribal library and at Cal Poly Humboldt's special collections. His archival research began during the late 1970s. 10 years later, while employed at the Phoebe Hearst Museum at UC Berkeley, he began scouring the Karuk and Northwest California holdings. His work was coined by local author-publisher as being that of the tribal scholar. This term denoted non-academic archival research and helped initiate the era of tribal communities returning their native knowledge back to their communities from whence the data was originally collected. He currently lives in Humboldt County, north coast of California. And immediately to my left, Olivia Rose Williams, Karuk, Pit River, and Paiute. From Orleans, California, she graduated from Cal Poly Humboldt in the spring of 2023 with a double major in environmental science and land management and an emphasis in policy and planning and Native American studies, emphasis in tribal law and government. She now works as the K-12 Environmental Education Division Coordinator at Pikiev Field Institute, working on implementing environmental educational lessons, materials, and field trips, fostering environmental awareness of indigenous traditional ecological knowledge, ITEK, within a classroom setting. She's also a language learner and has been working with the Karuk language as an apprentice under Julian Lang in the AICLS American Indigenous California Language Survival Program. Welcome to all three of you, and I look forward to this panel. And I think Carly is going to start us off.
Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me okay? Last workshop of the day. Yay! Or oh. So we are going to go into Strengthen Strands. Manahu Iposo'o, I'm Carly Tex. This is weaving a model for language. So the first thing we're going to do is to start making, and that's why you have strands in your hands. And then as we get started, I'll go into an introduction. I'll go into a little bit more of what I do and the purpose of today's talk, which is weaving reflection and reflections on building a team. So if you have cordage in your hand, you should have one of one color and one of a separate color. In my slides, I say white, but some of you have blue and so on. So the first thing you're going to do is tie the two colors together with one knot. So they are together, like so. and then wait for further instruction. Don't go any further just yet. If you do not have raffia, you do not wish to participate, help someone out by holding their twine, because our cordage making relies on on tension, a little bit of tension. So you can help someone out and hold theirs while they work on it. And I'll go to the instructions for those of you joining online. I don't know if these materials were handed out to the folks joining online ahead of time, but we have there are 3 images of a round basket or medallion template, and through that you could design your own basket and consider what would it look like, how does it tell your story, what is the significance of your designs, and how would you mark milestones. So the basket template is representative of a model of your language work. So if you were to make a basket that shows your language work, consider those questions and draw that out using that template. The second option you could do if you're joining online is the first journaling activity, which I will get to, but it's in slide 34, I think, and it's writing your language revitalization autobiography. And I believe that was also in a handout. The third option is if you have raffia or weaving materials at home, go ahead and just make cordage with us. So those are 3 things that you can do if you're joining us from Zoom. So here, in this session, we've done these first 2 steps. We've tied the bunches together with 1 knot. That is you bringing your team together. Okay, so the next instructions say to twist the fragments of one color, in this case blue, away from you in the right direction. So where's my pointer? Here it is. So here's the blue strand. So we're twisting it to the right. Give a few good twists. 1, 2, 3. Okay, tightly. Step 4 is to, in one motion, make the strands switch sides. So take that one that's on the right side and bring it over to the left so they switch. Boom, just like that. Should I do it again? 1, 2, boom, like that. Then they switch. Now your strand should be opposite of how they started. So you do the same steps again. Twist the fragments of the one on the right side to the right. 1, 2, 3, and then switch sides. Boom, like that. Okay, and then again. 1, 2, 3, switch. We just did this part right here. Repeat that strand with the right side, twist them so you have one side flipping over the other side, and they should now be on opposite sides. Do it in a 1, 2, 3 motion. When I'm doing this with classes, I teach them how to say 1, 2, 3 in their language. So we go sama wahai pahi, sama wahai pahi, sama wahai pahi, or whatever the language, your respective language is. Here, for your convenience, we have a video. And it's slow motion. So let's get this going. Twist your strands. And I like to use the strand twisting because for myself, as I'm listening to a talk, it helps if I'm doing something with my hands so I can focus. So some of you might have seen me working on my belt over here with yarn. And the other reason I like to use these strands, and I call this strengthened strands, is because I like to consider it as a form of reflection, that you consider here you are an individual, and you have these fine, fragile pieces of twine or raffia. But when you bundle them together, maybe add a little bit of tension, then they work together as a team to make a very strong piece of twine. And so this is reflective of our basket making and how we have small, fragile pieces of material that come together to make a wonderful piece of art that can perform many functions, from helping you to gather food, to store, to carry babies, and to carry food, to hold water. So it all starts with weaving these strands together, and that's why this is Strengths in Strands. And it's a metaphor for how we work as a team, and how as an individual, we may not be very strong, but once we come together, we are very strong. And we can do a lot of things if we work together. So while you're working on that, I will introduce myself, and I want you to take a look at this basket here that I'm holding. This is reflective of that template, the round basket. And this is a coiled style basket made in the Western Mono style. And this was several years ago, so now that basket is a bowl. Now, introduction, Hanosa Enum, I wanted to let you know where I'm from. So this map on the right is from Gayton, 1948, and it's a hand-drawn map of the Western Mono, or Monachi. And the circle around the area shows you where the different bands of Mono are from. The North Fork Mono at the very tippy top of the map is the tribe that I collaborate with and that I'm a member of. And then one of the tribes down in the south, the Wobanich, is from Dunlap, and that's on my mom's side. Let's see. So we call ourselves Num, and I'm a basket weaver, so it was my first love before I started to get into language, and through my work, I try to combine them. So I am very involved in California traditional arts, and this is the organization that I work with, Advocates for Indigenous California Language Survival. And you might be familiar with us. If not, you're familiar with us. You might be familiar with our programs. So we run the Master Apprentice Language Learning Program, or MAP, M-A-P. And through that program, we have apprentices work with masters. They must choose each other. We don't choose them. And they agree to work together for 1 to 3 years, and they commit to one-on-one immersion contact time for 300 hours per year. And through that program, they receive a grant to help them along. They also receive mentorship from the organization and workshops to help them gather tools on how to stay in the language in their time together. An extension of that is our family language program, and that one is similar to Master Apprentice, and it is for bringing the language into the home. So we follow a similar model, but instead of focusing one-on-one, we have a family with one person as the lead of the household. And a family can be however the family wants to define it. It doesn't have to be 2 parents and 3 kids, and just as long as someone in the family is under 24 or under 25. The team on the top is myself and the people that I work with and our staff. The people on the left are members of our board, and they're a working board, and they put time into all of our events. One of them looks familiar. He's on the panel today. And through that, so we work together to put on biennial events. One, which some of you might be familiar with, is called the Breath of Life, Archival Institute for California Indigenous Languages. And this is the version that started out at UC Berkeley. So we work with the archives there, and we also work with Native American Studies. And we put on a week-long institute, and the archives set scheduled time where we can send attendees to the archive reading rooms, and they focus on their language, and they spend time reviewing the materials. We provide them meals, and then they stay in the dorms for a week. And we also match them with a linguist who is their linguistic partner, and that person guides them through using those archival materials. And then by the end of the week, they come up with a project, something that can help their community and take that work home with them. So we do that every 2 years. The other event we have every 2 years is called Language is Life Gathering, and that's our biennial conference. So the last one we had was August 2023, so the next one won't come until next year, 2025. Other services we offer are a mini grant, and we also have offered to outside communities language program training. So we have gone to communities to help them develop master apprentice programs or Breath of Life. And yeah, so that's a service we provide sometimes. Some new programs that we're expanding include extended programming for Breath of Life cohorts. We'd like to provide services between the biennial events. So we also offer an online symposium in which we feature presenters, and it's all over Zoom, and everyone is welcome to attend that one. The Institute is by application. We can only accept so many people because the archives are not very big. So, okay. We're going into, so the other extended program is Second Breath of Life, which is an advanced institute. We haven't held it yet, but we are getting to it. And then the Youth Leadership Development Conference is another program that we're offering to engage youth and to develop young leaders. And I will get to that in a moment because it's relevant to later on in the presentation. So I wear many hats in addition to being director of this organization, so I just have listed here some other things that I'm involved in. I do have a YouTube in case anyone wants to learn Mono. It's called Show Me the Mono. And then I have the project that was mentioned was the NEH-funded project, which I will talk about next. What else do we have? Okay, so this is our project, and unfortunately I realized after I submitted my slides, I did not put any pictures of the people I work with, my elder speakers. I'm sorry about that, but I will tell you about them. It's family conversations recording our Western Mono language. So the purpose of the project is to acquire 10 hours of video documentation of our remaining speakers of Mono language. And when we started the project, we had estimated, I believe, 7 or 9 possible people we could work with. And out of that, 3 of them committed. 5 committed, but 2 of them passed away before we could get it going. And then 1 was just really hard to get a hold of. So we started out with 1 really highly committed elder, and her name was Leona Chipo. And after another elder passed, this is recording conversations, so we can't really have a conversation with 1 person. So, and my Mono is I'm learning as I go, and so she and I would talk with each other as much as we possibly could with me, but we really needed someone who was more advanced. So I asked my dad to be a part of it, and he agreed to. And I don't have a picture of him, but he looks like me. And so he agreed to be a part of it, and it's his first language, but he's really rusty. And I get a little emotional talking about him because he makes me think about my grandma. who was our master. So anyway, he and Leona and I have conversations with each other, and then we finally brought on another elder, and her name was Faustina. And Faustina and Leona are around, they're in their 90s. They're in their 90s, so this time that we have with them is really precious. And Leona's granddaughter was not originally part of the project, but she is currently the tribe's language coordinator. One of the challenges we had when we started this project was staff turnover. So the person who co-wrote the proposal with me was the language coordinator, and then he resigned, and then he eventually passed away also. And then we had another person come on staff, and then finally Leona's granddaughter came on staff. So now we have this really strong team. The other members of our team are, we identified young learners who, some of them were teaching and some of them were just really interested in the language, but we identified people who could be our recorders and transcribers. So our 10 hours of language documentation is to be transcribed through Elan. So we identified some youth in the community who could be those transcribers because we felt they would have the dedication, that they would stick with the training, and they would stick with the project long term, and they already have an interest in the language, very strong. So those team members are Victoria Garcia, Ben Garcia, and Anthony Utterback. The impact of the project is that we will contribute to the body of documentation of our language, and it comes from within the community. And we're training Mono community members, Mono youth, on how to record, how to transcribe, and how to archive. And our vision is that it will eventually be used for future teaching. So back to the weaving. So that's my team. These are the fragments of my string. And in basket weaving, we're taught that we should cultivate our plants and that everything we do in 1 year affects the plant for the next year. So we gather with responsibility and plan ahead for the year. Oh, winter's coming, fall is coming, time to gather, time to schedule that time off, and so on. And so basket weaving and cultivation, you're planting seeds, you're taking care of your plants, you're preparing for future work, you're building strong materials to make strong baskets. It's long-term planning, and it sets the foundation for future growth. Through cultivation, you have healthy materials that can make healthy projects. And so I take this metaphor into how we have identified members of our team and how we coach them and encourage them and mentor them in this project. So I have here an example of milkweed. This is the material that we would use for making twine, and I have an example here on the table, a bunch of it. And we turn it into string, and then we turn it into a belt, and the belt is used for a variety of purposes, but it's also very strong. And so you come up with that belt through this very fragile looking material up here that you work and make yarn. And if you want to, you can handle it too. I brought it so people can hold it and see how soft it is and yet how strong it is. So applying weaving to language revitalization work, again, it all starts with your materials, your team. You're cultivating the materials to their full potential, just the same way that you nurture plants, you're nurturing people. And the start is the hardest part of the process. So that's why I said tie a knot and wait for further instruction, because after that, people usually get confused. And the start of a coiled basket, the start of any basket is the toughest part. Once you get going, I don't want to say it's easy, but it's easier. So in basket weaving, when you're implementing your project, sometimes you have to start over, you have to revise, you have to reevaluate. Sometimes mistakes are made, same as when you're doing your language work. You have to be flexible and learn what works to keep your project workable. So every material, you have to know what makes it flexible? In basket weaving, it's water. Water helps your materials be flexible. And then also in your community work, community language work, learn to recognize when you need to take a break and when you need to have rest. Like we were talking last night about how community work is so hard. So the impact here is building strong leaders. Your community needs define the design and the function. For example, if you want to catch fish, then you're going to go make a fish basket. You're not going to make a baby carrier. And if you need to carry a baby, you're not going to carry it in a cooking basket. So whatever your need is defines the design and function of that basket. And if taken care of, that basket can last a long time. So weaving as a metaphor is not a new thing. I'm not going to have you, this is up here, but I'm not going to read it all. It's not a new concept, and so I was happy to find some examples of weaving as a metaphor for teams and education. So this is in relation to teacher education and telling the story of a project. A weaving project or a basket is an appropriate metaphor for your work. Here we have an example. On the left, you have the warp and the weft of your basket. The warp are the things that constrain or are the foundation of it, and the weft is everything that goes in between. So this goes back to if you're working on a template of your basket as a model for your language work, what would it look like, and how would you fill in the warp and weft here as we weave ourselves? I just have a few more examples. This is an example of a tapestry that was created as a horizontal tapestry. This is from Australia, and it's teacher educators, and they're creating a tapestry based off of the mapping of professional standards. And then if you're a crafter, you might have seen these. These are temperature blankets, and this is woven with color coding. And every day, every row is the temperature of the day. So at the end, you have this project that shows you what the year was like. So again, if this is something you're interested in, what might your basket look like? Just a question to consider. So with my last 9 minutes, I'm going to touch upon the Indigenous Language Advocate's Guide to Reflection. So switching gears, I've done this presentation before for Native Wellness for my tribe, and I introduced this tool that we at the Advocates have developed. And this is a guide. It has many more pages. I'm just sharing a little bit because it's relevant and ties in everything that we do. It's reflection, so it's developing a practice of reflection. So when we held our Young Leadership Development Conference a few years ago, the designers of the conference, which were me and some other members of our team, which we'll have a slide that shows credits, thought back about what helped us as people getting into the field of linguistics, getting into archiving, just getting into language work. And so we all, had a common theme of reflection. We all had some kind of practice that helped us take time to take a look at where we've been and where we're going and what our needs are, and knowing ourselves. So we developed this guide to help youth that are coming into the conference to start a practice of reflection and journaling, because again, it helps them to be able to know themselves, and hopefully to make it easier to get along with others, how we work with groups, how we work together with groups. Because while you can do language revitalization by yourself, usually you will be working with other people. Yay or aw, I don't know how you react to that, but sometimes it does help if you sometimes you just want to do things on your own. But unfortunately, the reality is we often have to collaborate. So it helps to have some kind of practice so you know yourself. So reflection, though, is a skill, just like basket weaving. So this is why we wanted to introduce this as as a practice, like basket weaving or language learning. Reflection improves with practice. So we encourage practicing it through writing it down, because our circumstances are constantly changing, and so by keeping a journal, you can track patterns in your life. Reflecting on them can help you better understand your language revitalization journey, wherever it takes you. So we encourage the youth in the program and anyone using the guide to develop a consistent practice, and also to know their reasons and purposes for journaling, because you can have different reasons. What do you want to reflect on? What are you documenting? And to think about that. But whatever it is, it has to be meaningful to you. There are many reasons to journal, and you can actually have several journals that suit different purposes. So we encourage users of the Advocate's Guide to set up their journal, and this is the option for people joining on Zoom. You can set up a journal. So the first thing we have them do is we have them personalize it. You can personalize it, put designs on it, and then we have them number the pages in the right-hand corner, and then we have them write down some information about themselves, like their names, date of birth, tribes, the languages they're trying to learn, the current date, and then they write an initial entry. And so they can write about anything we want, but one of the things we have them do as their first journaling activity is to write an autobiography. This is on the first page of the journal, where they include information about their parents and their relatives and where they learned their language from, what tribes they are, where they grew up, where they've lived so far, who they work with to understand their language, and how does that person encourage them, who makes them excited about language. So that's the first journaling activity. We even ask them to reflect on things like how they became interested in language revitalization. What are the current circumstances? So we're asking them to get to know what is happening in their community, and where does language fit in. So after they have this first journaling activity, then they can practice and create consistency. So we encourage them that language revitalization does not have to exist in its own separate category, but that you can integrate it into anything you do. And one of the new habits you can develop along with learning your language is this habit of journaling. So yeah, it was some of the people that helped out with this included myself, one of our master apprentice trainers and current master in the program, Crystal Richardson, Jacob Manitoa Bailey from the MICA Next Steps Language Revitalization Project, Kayla Begay, who sits on our board, and then Vincent Medina, also a board member, and Zoe Liu, a volunteer and student. Also, she's not credited here, but Carmen Moreno, our program assistant. So we developed the Advocate's Guide. We designed that initial Young Leadership Conference. However, the conference is going to come back and actually turn into a larger program. And we actually had some of the youth who came to the first conference, we invited them back to create an advisory committee. And they planned this whole program for their own peers. So we actually received funding to turn this one-time event into a 2-year program, and it's being designed by the youth. And all we requested is, please bring back the Advocate's Guide. So my last few slides, I wanted to show my journal. This is from, I think, when I was 14 or 15. And so, no, I didn't have the autobiography, because in my 14 or 15-year-old mind, it didn't occur to me that I needed to do anything like that. But this is when I was working with Grandma, and we were writing down words, and I had no concept of domains or anything. It's completely random. So you have bird, boots, roses, tongue, tooth. You have some sentences in there, and the writing, I had no concept of how things should be written. I just wrote it however I, thought. But I'm sharing a glimpse of this journal from when I was a teenager, and because we were learning language as we were doing basket weaving lessons. So to bring it back to designing a basket that tells our story, I have to give some credit where this idea came from. Iva Moss, she was a student at Colang 2022 in Montana. Who knows about Colang? Okay, the Collaborative Institute for Language Research. Yes, the next one will be in Reno 2026, so I hope you can make it. I'm a co-convener for Colang, and we're actually recruiting for new members of our advisory council. So keep an eye out for that. But anyways, at this institute, we were in a workshop called Indigenizing the NSF, and she and I had some coffee, and she was asking me about this project that I was about to get started with my tribe, and she suggested that perhaps I develop a basket. Since I'm a weaver, maybe I make a basket that tells the story of this project and that NSF/NEH funded. So, we were thinking about like maybe everybody has a design, maybe we document certain milestones of the project. So I have here just some sketches of that. So you have on the left some of the milestones that I was thinking of noting, such as our original team. We have here one of our elders passed away. We have here someone resigned, another person joined. These two people join, someone resigns, joins, and it was all very team-oriented. So I have on the right also some sketches of designs that might go to them, just because I'm, thinking about like this one, Mary, MC. For some reason, these triangles were appropriate for her because it felt like when she joined, we finally could go. Our team was finally full. We have like me, I have stair steps because that's just my favorite. We have the boys, let's see, Ben and Anthony, they have lines because chevrons and lines are boy designs. And then, let's see, who else do we have here? Leona Chipo, she's an open diamond because she's a very open person. The other elder that we brought in, she's a diamond also, but she's a closed diamond because she's not so forthcoming with all of her information. So she's a closed diamond, but they're both treasures. So then we have, this is the basket that I was thinking, okay, this is what I could maybe work with. I have designs that show the people coming together, and then we have, an image for each person. And then up here, this is maybe the second year, and we have our third year. We're in our third year now of the project, so it's not done. So I don't have a third row yet done. But one thing I do have up here is I have mountain designs and river design going throughout, because the project extends beyond just one tribe's boundaries, and we have this huge territory from the foothills of Yosemite down to Sequoia King Canyon National Park, and so it crosses rivers and mountains to bring us together to do this project to document our language. And here on the right is my model of this basket that I may eventually make, which shows me in the center, and then we have Leona going around. We have quail top for one of our team members. I forget which one this is. Oh, this is a cross for another team member, and then we have Mary. Let's see. I forget who that one is. And then we have X. This is when Dale joined. X because his last name is Tex. And then, anyways, this is the model of what my basket might look like for that language project. And I don't know if NEH would accept a basket as a final report for one of their 3-year projects, but I like to think that they would consider it instead of something written, kind of boring. But anyways, this is the the basket that tells our story. So that's it. That concludes my presentation. I'm at time. I hope that there was some things that I gave you some things to think about, some maybe potentially some activities to do, and if it's not a basket, maybe your language work represents something else relevant to your culture. For example, I was just at a language summit in Palm Springs, and one of the presenters showed this root, and at the tip of it was a flower, and she said this was the root is a very important plant for them, and the flower shows how this root was withered, it was dry, it did not get any nourishment, and yet it flourished with this beautiful flower, and it's reflective of their language program, which also did not get, that investment of time and money, and it was also not nurtured, and yet their program is still flourishing because of how well their team works together. Okay, that's it for me. Thank you. I'm going to turn it over to Julian.
Thank you so much, Carly. That was great. Julian, you're up.
Ayuki kawarap im ko na nalitawiti Julian Lang karo ye warapa hoi pa kusara o wakuri hoa wakan pani aramsi primte. So I come from where the sun sets, I guess we would say, from this side on the west coast, and karo marok or Tuiship Dinan Waum Hoip Cobra Panani Ada, there's Konaramsi Tikaro. And so all of my people come from the river and the mountains back there. And so we're kind of like the tail end of all this westward expansion. Our first contact was really 1849 and 1850. So we didn't know any white people necessarily. Most people just had heard of them from maybe other tribes. And so, but we did have, my family was a little bit different than the rest of the families. We had my great-grandmother's grandfather was a dreamer person, and so one night he had a dream, and he said, "You fellows better go up to a certain place up in the mountains. There's strange people up there, stranded in the snow." It was a real early snow way in the high mountains. It doesn't snow where we live necessarily, but up in the high mountains, it snows a lot. And he said they're gonna die if you don't bring them down here. Go get them and bring them down. So this was in like the middle 1830s or something. I think somebody attempted to try to find out exact dates, or relatively exact date. And they were trappers maybe from Canada area or something like that. And they were up there. Sure enough, they found them where my great-great-grandfather had said they were. And so it was, they brought them down. And they put them up on my ancestral lands where we come from, my family comes from, the Wunchadak on the Salmon River. And they said, put them up over there at a certain place. And so they made them a summer, like a temporary shelter that we would do in the summertime for them in the winter. It would rain, but it wouldn't snow on them anyway. So they were there, and they were far enough away where they wouldn't, you wouldn't have to look at them, I guess. Yeah, I didn't want to have to keep looking at them over there. And so he would say, better go look at them now, see what they're doing. And he said, oh yeah, they're trying to do stuff and trying to make do with whatever. And then we better go check on them again, see what they're doing. He said, so they're eating their dogs now. And that's what they called a machishi at that time, was a mountain dog, which was a horse. And I guess they were actually mules. And they were up there, and they said, yeah, they're eating their dogs now. And he said, you better take them some food then, because they must be starving. So they went over and took all of this food over there, all of the good, our salmon and deer meat and all kinds of acorns and, well, not acorns, but hazelnuts and all kinds of different things so they could make it through the winter time. And they didn't want them dying on them, because our culture says if somebody dies in your, your place, then you're responsible for that death, and you have to pay. So you don't want people staying by you to be dying off, because you might have to pay somebody. So sure enough, the spring came, and they went over. They up and left as soon as they could, and then. You know what they say, the white man always says time is money, so they've been sitting around for quite a while, so they wanted to get out there and get those pelts or whatever it was they were looking for. And so they left behind all of these tools, hatchets and knife and shovels. She said, my grandmother said, the shovels were funny. They said they were round. They didn't have like shovels like we have today. She said they were all round ones. It still was sitting out there a while back. It was all those tools they left behind. And somebody came by one day and stole everything that was old. And they said, what do you want to steal that old shovel for? Or that old hatchet? You know, it just seemed crazy, but that's what they were doing at that time. I was stealing whatever wasn't tied down. And so we did have tools, so we were one of the first families to ever have that kind of contact in our area. And they never came back until finally I think it was about that time, the treaty signings were concluding in California. They had come all the way across with all the tribes to sign treaties, and they ended up in our neck of the woods and had people come and sign this treaty. And they went on down south to where Karuk comes from. Down there, they had the treaty signings after us. And so, our history shows that we had all agreed that we could somehow coexist with these people. But then they found gold. And so that just pretty much just put the kibosh on everything. And so, there was a bunch of folks back there in Congress. California was not a state yet, but they were going to ratify a state, but they had to ratify this treaty, I guess, simultaneously or shortly thereafter or just before. And that treaty, they had lobbyists in the 1850s. I guess the Congress has always had lobbyists, you guys. The white man loves lobbyists, it's like easy money or something. And so they lobbied against ratification of the treaties in California. So that's why we don't have treaties in California, because they decided that it was to their best interest to not have Indians with any kind of claim to the land or that type of thing. But fortunately, the white man also likes it easy money, kind of they call it. So they got all the easy gold and left. But they came in like 30,000 people showed up within 2 or 3 days. All of a sudden there was thousands of people on the river. Our villages were, we had 30, 40 people, 50 people. If it was a big place, it was probably maybe combined, maybe 50, 100 people in that village. And so we lived light and fast, and we could you know, lived a really good life and all of that. And we are what they call fix the world people. So our job was, our religion, spiritual way, ceremonial way, is that each year we have to stop everything. Everybody stops and everybody resolves all disputes amongst the people. We all have to resolve our disputes. Then we all gather. We select somebody who's taught particular certain prayers, and they go out into the mountains and learn those prayers. And I mean, say those prayers, recite those prayers, and then they do this. A thing that was told to us by our stories, that we that if you do these things, you're going to fix the world. That the world is out of balance. Human beings are always going to push the world out of balance. That's our nature. We're going to do it. It's just the way it is. That's why we have to settle up at the end of each year before we have the ceremony. So when we do it, we're all in a good way. And then when they stomp down on the ground at the end of these ceremonies, when they, you know, we call it kind of like setting a stone into the ground. When we set it down, then that's moors the world down, and it's good. And for that moment, you know, I always thought it was funny that they said the Indians live in balance and harmony, and very rarely I've ever seen Indians in balance, you know, harmony and balance. We're always at somebody's doing something, but at that moment, we are, when we fix the world, when the stone is set, you know, it's every time, all time. Everything stops, and yet it comes back to life. So the old life dies and the new life starts. And the sun keeps rising and all of that. But yeah, we are in harmony for that few moments. And then sure enough, I guess we just start messing up again, and the earth goes out of balance. And we don't believe in, or don't say anyway, that we're on the turtle island, but we do believe that we're on an island, that our land, the earth, our land, is floating in the water, like. And so anyway, that's kind of like an introduction to what I wanted to say, because we have reached the end of our speakers. So there are no L1 speakers left in my tribe. And right now, I guess you could say I'm the Avcom team at Stoppas, what they say, the top one, and for speaking our language. And so that's kind of my story that I kind of wanted to share, was how that kind of came about, which I can't really explain, but there are, like Harley was relating in her journals, there's all these things that happen that you don't know what's going on, what's in charge, I guess. You know, we just become Indians. And when I say we become an Indian, we become human being, that somehow we become a person, one who fixes the world. Very important. If you're going to be an Indian, that's what you got to do. And at least where we come from. And we do it in all kinds of different ways. And now we're at that point where we have to fix the world by returning our language back to the people's, you know, voices in the homes and all of that. And so it's kind of been a really good thing to witness, being kind of the main teacher of the language at this point, to see that where we are, you know, that tipping point within our society is you know, we need that fixing. And so what is that going to happen? You know, I believe in art as a key way of being, that creative spirit. All of our spirits were not destroyers. All the destroyers, we did our best to get rid of them. But all of our spirits, they could wake up in the morning and create something. Mountain, they could create all kinds of things, and that's what we are. We're not a creation of the spirit, we are creation of the earth. Like they say, we grew up like a plant out of the earth. And so we are controlled in a way by the spirit people and all of that, but we're not spirits ourselves necessarily, but we have what is called the stories. And that's where we get it. All the things they did, that's what those stories are. It's those things that, the knowledge that we need to be able to fix the world, to be able to live amongst each other, to have a future for your children, have food on the table, basically. And so you have to know what that is. You have to know those stories. And so now we're at that tipping point, where so many people don't know a darn thing. They're just walking around. They may as well just be like homeless people out on the street, most of our people, because they're so disconnected from that knowledge. And so then there's a whole bunch of young people like Rosie over here. There's a whole bunch of young people. And you guys know what, you guys all know about the, what was it called? The Idle No More, and these different kind of movements that have been happening in our Indian country. And how that, it seems like the female side is pretty strong amongst us. And so I was thinking that, all my students are almost all women. I've got like just a bare handful of men. And I was wondering why that is. Why language, which is so important, I don't know what it was so important for me, why I needed that language, why I, needed old person, and needed that, not even guidance. I didn't want guidance. I didn't want anybody telling me what to do. I wanted to just know things that were important. I didn't want somebody bossing me around. And so then they would do that. They would tell you stuff. They're not going to, well, my great-grandma used to always boss me around, like say, well, you go over there and we've been talking too long, you better clear that area out over there. So she was constantly making you work for your knowledge. And, but, you think about it, it's like I never thought about it too much, but we're a matriarchal people, our tribe. And so women are really important. And so here, it's like I'm watching it, and it's a pretty beautiful thing to think about it like that. I noticed we hardly ever cried during this conference this weekend, so I thought we should blubber a little bit anyway. But so to get back to it, it's a movement now again that's happening within our tribe, and I'm watching the women come up, and I was wondering why they would do that. And I was thinking, well, maybe men we just can't, we want to go fish and pull a fish out, and that's it, and go home. But the women have to think about, well, we got to feed people for, the whole year, there's a different mind that goes on, we just want to go out and shoot something or do whatever it is, or you just get it done. And, but the women are, you know, they're moving slower and thinking about this is what we got to do. Prepare. So anyway, that's my take on why it seems like the women are really coming for the language, because I can see it as our future in preparation for a world that obviously is kind of totally out of control, but that has still a lot of potential. Part of my background is a musician and writing songs and all of that, and so I was thinking, you know, once on the earth, the world, like there's all these environmentalism and all of this stuff going on, and really all it is we just have to remind ourselves that the earth, the world is, you know, it just needs a helping hand, you know, and we just can't keep taking and using it up. So I have a whole paper here that I haven't got to yet. So, so and I don't know how much. I don't even know how long I've been talking. How long have I been talking?
Probably 15, 20 minutes total.
Left?
Yeah.
Sheesh. Huh? Okay, I'm at 19 minutes. Oh, you mean, so, yeah, well, for Rosie? Huh? All right, so anyway, so I really wanted to talk about my tribe, but I wanted to talk about the archives. So the reason I'm rambling on like this is because we went over to that dang archive across the street. And it's like, got in there, and Rosie and I, and damn if we didn't find the meaning of life over there. It's like, you know, you get these requests from your community for this kind of knowledge and that kind of knowledge, and you gotta, you know, brain might not be there at that moment for that particular kind of knowledge or to think about it. And then, but I've noticed that, I don't know if you guys as Native people, whether this happens to you, but you know, if you just think about it, what you need, and you know, you have certain belief about it, that it suddenly, all of a sudden you walk around the corner and there it is, the answer. And could be in a form, any kind of form, you wouldn't even believe it. My relationship with archives is exactly kind of that way. I grew up with a traditional-minded people that believed in our way, the Karuk way, and that we were able to, they were able to provide us, the people, the young people, with all this knowledge, so much good stuff, and the ceremonies were able to be reborn and revitalized and brought back for all the people for generations and generations. And but then the community's always wanting something. Fortunately, you know, they want what everybody wants, you know, a house and all of that kind of stuff. But when it comes to tradition, they want certain things, and you never know what that's going to be. Well, now they want, like, all these young women are all doulas now, and doing all this training with all this kind of like natural childbirth and all of this kind of stuff. And so they want all this knowledge. Well, of course, I am not going to know too much about that. But on the other hand, maybe somebody does, but there's nobody. All the old people are gone. I know what I was told. You know, my great-grandmother saying, I was born on the mountain. I don't know what they were doing, if they were gathering, what they were gathering, but, you know, she was born out in the mountain and, like, just born in the mountain, you know? And it kind of blows my mind thinking about it. But yeah, but they want this kind of knowledge. There's lots of drugs happening amongst in my community, among young people. The fentanyl thing was really bad, like maybe 2 summers ago. And, 15-year-olds suddenly dead because of it, And we're at the ceremony and we hear this come in, and you wonder, well, why aren't they here? They should be here. Is what you would think, but we don't boss people around. Where I come from, we have no chiefs, where everybody gets to say whatever they want to say to tell themselves what to do, and you get to choose where I come from, and so they chose not to be with the rest of the people, fixing the world or healing that baby or doing what it is that we do in our sermon. So anyway, but so at the archive, we're over there, and there was just one thing that I had never seen before, and it was kind of a little biography of a woman, doctor woman, and she was talking about her upbringing and how she was told, and we're sitting there. Anyway, it's like, don't eat too fast, she said. If you eat slow, that's just, as a single little tidbit of information that doesn't sound like much, but it's attached to everything else. Do everything slow. Talk slow, like be mindful. I think the modern term is now that has been around for a couple of years now. Be mindful about everything you do, and just everything will be good, as we say, and money's going to be waiting for you outside the door. And but it's not like cash, not a big pile of cash laying out there. It's like it's good fortune. It's the goodness is going to come your way. So just take it easy, you guys. And and then we'll all be better, all of us, not just Native people, but everybody. Knock it off. It's like society just needs to just stop for about it. Take a breath, and quit doing stuff, and just kind of just breathe for a minute, That's kind of what and then you'll reach that point. We can all reach that point of equilibrium, and then speak your language. So this is so far from what I have written here, away from what I have written here. But I wanted to do one thing, and that is this. We're all going to sing together. We haven't cried. I haven't heard too much crying, and no singing. Huh? Oh, you did? Oh, okay. Carly cried. Yeah. Okay, so we're going to do a song, this is a song that I share with people when we go out, and here it is. So it goes like this. Tapich. A-M, Tapich. 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 Okay, so that's the name of somebody. He's got a big, tall, skinny guy with one eye and one leg. And so I wonder who that could be. Huh? Anyway, it is. I'm going to tell you, to let you guys know, instead of having to guess. It is worm, the worm, earthworm. And they say, see, I hear that people out this direction pray to the sun and earth, like sky and all of that. But we pray to the earth, and we say that prayers go through all of it's like highway there, the worms, little path. That's how our prayers get spread around. So he's a pretty heavy dude, worm. Amtap is like dust, ashes, and so Amtapich means like dust, dusty. So Dusty's his name, I guess in English, Dusty. And that's his song. He just says his name. And it goes like this. And listen, and then sing along. And I'll stop, and then you guys can sing with me. Okay, here we go. Hang on, what's that? All right. Tapet. So it goes like this. Tapet. Woo-hoo, woo. 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 Okay, like sing that now. Tapet. Woo-hoo, woo. 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 Hey! All right, you guys. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much. Thank you for making us all sing. I think we needed that. All right, Rosie.
It's kind of funny Carly brought up the notebooks. Well, because here's my notebook. This is an ICLS thing, and I also, my first page is my doula and midwifery comments and language notes and curriculum, so I just think that's really funny. I carry it around everywhere, and I have many versions, starting in high school too, and they're all kind of messy. They're getting more narrow now, though, but I'm gonna one day tone them down. But, Kani Chichad Patakikma Paipasupa, it's great to see. I'm happy to be here, and it's great to see you all and meet you all. I actually didn't know who you all were, meaning what APS and CNAIR was until like a few weeks ago, if not really tomorrow or yesterday. It kind of stuck in there. And presenting, I thought he was lying. I was like, they don't want me to talk, like you're just messing with me, and I thought he was teasing me. I think I was in denial, but then I saw my name and reality kind of hit, and I was like, okay, well, I had to get down to this then. And so I scrolled through your guys' online library, and I submitted a bunch of requests, by the way. It would be really cool if they got approved. It's a lot of stuff in there, and so just putting it out there. So I don't really have much to share on the programs here, just because it's a little bit new to me. And so I'm kind of just sharing my story, a little bit of it, as an apprentice. Well, I guess really starting out as a kid, I was always constantly asked, what do you want to be? Have you thought about what you're going to do? All starting my freshman year. What are you going to do with your life? And then when I would answer and say, oh, I want to go to law school, I want to do something in law, my family would look at me and be like, are you sure? You don't want a job that makes you unhappy. Like, you know, sadness and stress, it'll make you sick. It can kill you. And so they were always very weary, like, if I was going to be happy. And so I still kind of went into the policy and law direction. And I also went to language classes once a week with Julian. He would come and pick me up from my dorms. And I did the same thing in high school as well. It would be Wednesdays at lunch, Karuk language time. Loved it. And so I guess at school and just over time, being exposed to the language and being in the culture, I found that, I've come to realize that I'm the happiest just being a Karuk. I love to gather, I love weaving, I love being outside and learning the language, and that's what's truly made me happy in my life. And learning the language over time, and well, it was a short time, it's only been a couple years. I'm not that old. Maybe I am. Well, it really has altered and changed the way that I view those questions of life that they were asking me in my life. And I may not have personally met or known all those people in these archives, although I'm related to some. I see familiar names, but it feels like I can. And I have their words, their stories, their songs, and all of their voices waiting for me, which I think is really special. It's there to teach me and remind me of who I am and remind me of what it really means to be a Karuk in this world. I think it's funny, his speech, because we didn't talk about what we were really going to say, and I feel like it's very similar. We were just Karuks, I guess. Well, and he's my teacher. Well, yeah, so they're really kind of just reminding me what it means to be Karuk in this world. And in this world, it's been so deeply twisted in colonialism and this so-called American dream. And that colonial and American mindset is something that it deeply harms the mental health of people. It's centered on this idea of progress and growth. It's never ending. It's one where you can't be happy unless you're advancing in pay, education, cars, clothes, other materialistic things. And somehow that all means you're successful. I was always told, get off your phone, don't be doing that, because you're gonna be looking at other people and you're gonna see what they have and what they want, and you start comparing your life, and that's not good, because it doesn't give you a time to pause, reflect, look at yourself, and understand what the true meaning of life is, what your purpose is. And so it doesn't do that. We never feel satisfied. And I guess one of the only things that has kept me grounded and steady in this fast-paced world is the language and the culture. It all kind of started with Julian there. I was living with my dad, and I grew up with my mom a little bit in Nevada, and then when I was about 13, 14, living in California, in Wairika, which is about 3 hours from Julian, I got sent off to his house with my auntie, she's the same age as me, to go and stay with him for the week. And that was really a lot of exposure to like the language, the culture, and we were his helpers him and Lynn's helpers for the flower dance. And so that's something that's really kind of impacted me. And as well as like the evening Zooms for language with Julian, the all-day Saturday and Sunday immersion and language lessons for the Master Apprenticeship Program. And that looks just like sometimes making pancakes or making sushi rolls. In immersion, it means like in Aradahi Kitch, so like in the language only. So it's really fun. Sometimes you think you're making a pancake and it turns out to be a tortilla. I don't know. 1 tablespoon of salt, or 1 teaspoon of salt can be easily mistaken as 1 tablespoon. So I thought they were so good, we ate them. And so, yeah, or it could be a single paper from an archival scan placed in front of us, and we read it, and that sparks so many conversations. And those moments, learning the language, talking about culture, just being present, are what really circled me back to being a Karuk and trying to get me back into the mindset of what it means to be a Karuk wa'arar, just a Karuk, a human being. And so even when I was going through hard times at college and in my life where I couldn't focus on my classes, I didn't even go to my classes, although I graduated. I couldn't finish my assignments, and I was just home and like pretty depressed, I guess, dealing with people with addictions of alcohol, drugs, or having to navigate the like foster system at one point. But whenever I got a call about language or from Julian to have a session, or there was a language meeting, it would immediately take me out of that time and space, and I would be happy again. And it was like I was in a different world. And suddenly that purpose and a meaning came to what I was doing. But also, it's like a calm sense of peace where I could sit still, listen. There wasn't anything more important that I was supposed to be doing, even my homework. That didn't matter. So I always liked the idea of the future kind of being like, oh, we're walking forward in the footsteps of those before us. I think that's pretty cool of y'all. You guys should think about that. And when I would try to ask Julian questions about how do you say this in future tense, and it could be for like my work, like how do you say we're making Orleans better for the future generations, or how do you say we're carrying fire forward for future generations because it's important. And I would just get a response of like, well, it's not, we don't really say that. And we don't really think like that, that for us, our future kind of resides in the past. It's kind of interesting, but just, that was just enough to kind of eliminate the fear of the unknown for me. And that, yeah, the fear of the unknown, that when I thought about the future, my future, and back to those questions of who will I become, what will I do, when will I know my purpose in this world? And in a way, I kind of see it as, well, I'm here today, I'm here now to learn the processes of navigating these archives like those before me, like this guy. And they came, you know, these people before me, they came and they ensured that this information would be here for the future. They shared that little bit of information, or all of it that they had with those, I don't know, archivalists, what do you call them? But they gave them that for us. And so, and it was, yeah, in a time of fear, of loss of knowledge and elders, and we're still going through that. And so I see it as my responsibility as a Karuk person, as a language learner, as a teacher, to be here and to learn how to use these resources, I guess. And because otherwise it sits in those boxes in the back of the room, forgotten. There isn't pictures hung out of those people who did that work, and there's nothing there to really remind us of that dedication if like we don't keep continuing in this. And so for me now, looking back at all those questions, I want to be a language teacher. I want a job. I have a job where I can weave, gather, speak my language. I could always do better. And being able to share that with others, share that with the youth. I would eventually love to have an immersion classroom based outside, not inside, away from the structure of public school systems that really forces a child's mind to conform to a system that doesn't create or doesn't support creativity and wonder. I would love to see kids outside listening to Khanchifich sing their songs, and the language Adadahi is spoken without questions or fear of being wrong. And like Julian shared about the revitalization of the flower dance, I'm lucky, I have been lucky to have grown up not knowing that struggle, I guess. I know of it, but instead I guess you would say I'm a beneficiary of him and Lynn's and everybody's archival work to bring back that ceremony, bring back the flower dance. And those songs are something that have really impacted me in a positive way, like on Topic, we sing that. A lot of the kids like that. And it's opened my mind to look at the world with wonder. And it gives life to the animals and the things around me. For instance, frog or Khanchifich, do you know they have their own song? They even speak in their own language with it, because I would ask them, what does that mean? What does Tuduhu Wena mean? And we don't know. It's in frog language, so think about it. And so I learned this through the flower dance, and now it's one of those things that as I come across a Khanchifich and I hear them singing, you know, that song pops into my mind. And as well as the stars, like a Taidam, they have songs, they have stories, and that are tied to them. And so every time I look at the stars, I remember those songs. I remember the stories of the sisters in Coyote, places that are tied to it, and the language that comes with it and that tells it. And so it's kind of the same for everything around me. I hum those little tunes. They pop in my head when I see that. I remember words as I come across those things. And it's been a spark to keep me wanting to learn more. I want to be able to describe what's around me in Ararahi and learn more stories to finish that picture of my home that's been started when I started learning the language. And I want to be in my home and have that deeper understanding of the mountains, the plants, the places, the animals around, and even the stories of the people before me today. Like when we were in the archives, I didn't know who this woman was and how great and that she was a doctor and what she went through, but also the lessons that she had to share and to teach. And there's just so much knowledge out there that our people don't have, but that we're getting back. And so to finish, I guess I would say that I'm happy with the work in language and the education that I'm a part of. And eventually, I would like to see all those stories and songs returned to the people, where one day we don't have to make a trip across the country to learn and finally read them. And that, spaces feel more inclusive and representative of the original peoples. We acknowledge them in the beginning, and I think that's great. And that, but still this place in this city doesn't feel, it doesn't feel like comfortable. It's not acknowledging, there's no representation. I see a lot of white men's painting, and yet not one of the indigenous people who most definitely played a key piece in the history and a lot of them gave their stories that adds to your guys' archives. And so I guess that's all I have to say. Yotwa.
Thanks so much, Rosie. We're going to just sort of let it flow into the last little bit of wrap-up discussion. So we have a little time for questions if anyone has any. Yeah. Delaney.
Wado for all of your inspired talks. I also really loved singing. I recently learned a seeding song in Seneca and in Cherokee. I've never been able to grow tobacco until I started singing to my tobacco. It likes to be sang to in Seneca though, because I think I know I'm on Haudenosaunee territory, so it wanted to hear its own languages. But is there any of you, all of you, is there a specific song that you really enjoy or that you can't help but blubber to?
Hello, yes. There's quite a few. So the flower dance that she mentioned, so these were songs that I didn't mention. They come from the, there was a bunch of, the first ethnomusicologist was this woman, Helen H. Roberts, who came to our country at the request or behest of John Harrington. And so he brought this woman out for the purposes of recording the music, traditional music. And so we got our hands on that back in the 70s, late 70s, mid 70s. And it kind of got quickly, it was like, nobody wanted to listen to it because it was so horrible. But the recording quality, just really, it was wax cylinders, and it just sounded like everybody wanted something they could listen to in the car cruising down the road. And you couldn't do it. It was just too horrible. And so anyway, so there's lots of songs. And so some of those were the songs called flower dance songs. No elder knew what they were. They knew flower songs, and they knew all these different things. They didn't know flower dance songs. It's like, what is that? And come to find out, it's these all the ceremonial songs. And one of the main persons who was singing was Rosie's great-great-grandfather, actually, was one of the main singers. So it's so good. So here's the song. So there might be a flower dance song, like the one that she was talking about, the frog song.
Oh, you want to sing it?
Yeah.
Do they want to sing it with us?
They could.
Okay, it goes like Tuduku. Can you get Tuduku? Wena. Tuduku. Wena. Okay, this is a tune. You guys can hop in. Tuduku wena, 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 tuduku wena.
So that would be one song, and then they say the story that, because we believe that flower dance is every dance. It's every animal and person and spirit of the world comes to that dance. Every spirit and animal. And so they all came to the very first one because this man from Earth, Panther, married Doe, deer woman who comes from heaven. And so they brought those two together, right? And so they had a baby. And so I don't think it had ever happened before, but they found out when you combine heaven and earth, you end up with a menstrual cycle, apparently. And so that was kind of where it came about. So they had to figure out what they're going to do. So they got everybody together and had a ceremony. And so some of those songs are, there a whole series of songs of blessing this girl, of making her work. Actually, we call it drag. She's dragging us around, and that she is going to do. It's a very fast light songs, we call them, and so that's for her strength. We bless her. For her strength, we want her to be strong, and all of her kids will be strong, and it'll be great. And then the circle song is that time when everybody comes. We say there's no onlookers. You can't come and watch the ceremony. You have to be in the circle, and it's a big circle that grows and grows as people show up. And so one of that's a circle song, so that's one of the people from there. And so this might be, but I would say one of my favorite songs. I don't know if I can sing it right now, but it'll go like this. These are songs that are for the mountains. And so there's one, so he goes like this. Oh, actually, no, all the dams came down on the Klamath River, a lot of them. And so this is a song for the river. Yeah, it's really good news all the way around. The biggest dam removal, I think, in North America or something like that, they were talking about. So here's a song. This is an old song that says, you know what, because we believe everybody was trying to destroy the earth ever since the beginning. And that there's a spirit out there always wants to destroy it for whatever reason. And so it's our job to repair that and to make it better. So this song goes, Mitananoin Mitananoin means, our former waterfall that we fish from, that get all of our food from, that I could still hear it yet, the roar of that. How it roars. I can still hear it yet. But the fact is they tried to destroy it, whoever these people were. And then they were going to make a particular, a dam at that very site back in the 20s, which was ended. Oh, here's a song, goes like, see if I can sing it. Kariumi hiti, Kariumi hiti, mitanano ino, Kariumi hiti, Kariumi hiti, mitanano ino. Hey, Karuma takunip taiwarani, Karuma takunip taiwarani, Kariumi hiti, mitanano ino, Kariumi hiti, Kariumi hiti, mitanano ino, Kariumi. On the way. So that song is like, talks about that falls, but it also talks about how we're it's still there. And anyway, there's more. Yeah, there's a lot of songs. We have a lot of songs.
I blubber, and I've been blubbering at every song when I've tried to sing a song, but I will share a fun song that makes me laugh. So, and I'm getting into song creation because each of our songs has a time when it's right to be sung, and so hand game songs sung during hand games, cry dance songs sung during cry dance. So we can't share everything. So I have social songs that I'm starting to get into. So one of them is this one, and it goes, Hano puku, te yawiya kwe sanum. So it's a conversation of two people. And so this person says, Hano puku. And then this one says, Te yawiya kwe. And then this one goes, sanum. So the words are, where's your dog? Where's your dog? Oh, he ran away and got lost. Oh, too bad. So that's my song.
Hi, thank you so much. As we're wrapping up here, I wanted to just read out. It's not a question; it's a comment from the internet world. This is from Ms. Hawkwad. Thank you all for being here. So brave, beautiful, and doing the best you can to bring and maintain the care all we need for each other and the planet. Even in our human times are not feeling great, please know that you have done something strong and admirable for caring in the right ways about that which is truly important and worth conserving, each other, those before, and those to come. So thank you.
Thank you, honey. That probably was by one of our fans back home.
Is this on here? Oh, here we go. I also wanted, since this is also our final little span of, I don't know, 10-ish minutes left, I also wanted to invite people here, had any certainly more questions for each of our presenters who've been very generous in sharing their thoughts and much else. But also wanted to, I'll say one thing too, but also want to open up to any other attendees, any reflections you want to share about the couple days. I know it's been a long couple days too, really wonderful, but long. One thing I wanted to say is for anyone that's here, but also anyone who's joining us online, certainly any questions you have about stuff in the archives, accessing stuff, getting copies. There's no approving or disapproving of requests. If you placed them, we'll get to them. We'll get started next week. And if you find something or don't find something, please feel free to send us an email too, or a phone call too, to let us know more about what you're doing. Because we're not experts on anyone's language or culture, but we can say, I think there's a little more over here. You should take a look and let us know, and we can get it to you. So I just wanted to put that out there, but I also want to then just open it up to anybody else who would like to share anything, thoughts or questions.
I have a question. Who finished a string today? All right. Bunch of string makers. Cordage. Thank you.
I just wanted to say that I really enjoyed all these presentations and all the presenters. You guys did an amazing job.
We have a few more comments online from Ava Garut. I love the inclusion of basket journaling component and the musical contributions to the program. Y'all are integrating powerful forms of knowledge reproduction belonging to different groups of people. Inspired. Thanks to everyone for the goodness, love, and strength that you put into this event, a gift to us all from many communities and from the APS. And then we have two more. So we have Sabrina. Thank you for the beautiful teaching and wealth of information and education from all our distinguished speakers. And then finally, Bradley Clements writes, storytelling, weaving, crying, singing, what an amazing way to conclude the conference.
Thank you for those comments from the online world. I just want to say as a presenter, thank you to the organizers for inviting us. It was different. I just want to say on my end, it it was different. My reflection is that where we come from when we have our get-togethers, we're always crying about something, and our language is very emotional. And I think it was something we all needed to do today. And there's nothing wrong with that. I always just feel like just let it out, you know. And I think some of it had to do with going into the archive, and which the three of us did today, and obviously, seeing what was in there affected us. And I for sure am going to take some of that information back and share what I can with my community and my team. And I just want to show appreciation for the people who are here in person, and it's been really good to meet all of the presenters and hopefully some future friends and colleagues. Thank you.
I would like to thank everyone that has presented and has been here. Coming from a Latin American context, I'm from Mexico. We face like different situations that happening here, and I just think it's inspiring, like seeing you all making all this work from different tribes and communities. And yeah, I just think it's inspiring. And thank you again. And I learned a lot from you coming from another background. Yeah.
I would just like to say that I'm so grateful to have been here and just, well, first, she wasn't paid to say that, so just so you know. But hearing her voice her opinion, because she's been here this whole time, but I didn't know how much she'd been paying attention to what's going on and what is being said and what's being presented here. It just shows that our children listen to what we say, how we speak, what we teach. They're paying attention even if we don't always know that they are. And so that's very important in how we go about our lives, how we go about teaching and speaking to our children, and just have them being in the presence around us. And so to hear her say that and to know that she's taken in what everybody has had to say is really powerful, because she's 13. So to know that she has this knowledge in her brain and she's thinking about it now, that's all of our children, that's all of the generations going forward, and recognizing that and helping that grow is really important as we think of our generations and our future generations as we go forward in teaching and passing on our cultures, our histories, our languages.
Well, it's hard to find a note to end on, but thank you, Moana, for those words, and for everyone else who shared their words today, especially here at the end. On behalf of the APS and the many folks here who've helped put it together, we're very thankful for all your generosity, especially those of you who've traveled for long distances, or short ones too. And we hope that your travels home are safe, that many good friendships and working relationships and other things can come out of this. We hope your families are well, your friends. Hope you can get some good sleep when you get back home to your own bed and see your kids or family or pets or whatever. We'll follow Julian's good advice and maybe not do too much for a little while, but then get back to it and taking it slow and in a good way. So I don't know what else to say, but thank you very much.